Hello, basketball fans. It's me, DC, here for Fantasy Basketball Analyzer to help you get ready for week 23 of the fantasy basketball season. Unless your season's over, in which case, thank you for still watching. You're likely headed to the championship or the semifinals, especially if you've been watching this channel, getting all good advice. I also want to say, welcome fans of neighbor roofing sounds, because my neighbor is having the roof redone. And I've tried to wait as long as I can to record the video. There's only so much I could do. And I feel like I've thrown some of this in the situation, but I feel like this would be a weird video to record if I did the whole video like this, right? So we're not going to do that. We're just going to have fun and hope it's not terrible audio. Let's get into it by looking at the pace and defensive efficiency of our basketball opponents. You can look at the numbers. They're not changing much because we're getting towards the end of the season here. And if there is a little fluctuation, like someone's out, say Ja's out for 2 weeks, which I am sad about. I'm driving the whole family down there. We're going to the Grizzlies. I'm taking the kids to see the first Grizzlies game. I think Ja's going to be out. Oh well, can't control these things. Can't control your fantasy team. So that will change some of these numbers, but in general, we're going off the team averages because it's a little crazy right now, and you don't know when Harden, LeBron, and everybody's going to be resting. So here's what we're looking at. You want to attack Houston, Sacramento, Portland, Lakers, Charlotte, San Antonio, Brooklyn. I'm pretty much sure that holds up. Obviously, Brooklyn's a little different now with Kyrie. Looks like eligible to play at home, but I don't think that's going to make them less desirable to attack. They'll still be good to go after. In fact, if anything, Kyrie helps their pace, which makes them more interesting from fantasy terms to go after them. Faster play style equals more stats. Down at the bottom teams you don't want to go after: Boston, Miami, Cleveland, Dallas, Golden State, then Philly, Phoenix, and now Toronto's crept down there into those same averages as their team's finally getting healthy again. They've been missing OG for a little bit. And now that he's back, that's going to help, although these numbers probably don't fully reflect that he's back. So maybe they're even going to come down a little bit more. We take these numbers and we apply them to the week 23 schedule. All right, what jumps out at you? Yeah, no 2-game weeks, none at all. Cleveland, if the shirt didn't give it away, is the big winner here. 5-game week. Hopefully you guys are in your championship, because hopefully you guys aren't playing until the very last week. We already are dealing with players resting. I've already talked about this on the show. So if so, really big deal. Grab some Cavs. Now, their schedule isn't the best for streaming, but 5 games is still 5 games. Otherwise, we've got 7 teams that play only 3 games, which leaves us with 22 teams playing 4 games. Most are playing 4 games. In your weekly lock league, you're at a serious disadvantage if you only are getting 3 games, especially if someone sits. Now it's suddenly a 2-game week and no one else has 2-game weeks. So weekly lock leagues, you really got to push for those 4s. And even in your daily change, you want those extra games. In the playoffs, these minutes matter. Every little stat. I mean, a rough matchup right now in the semifinals. The runaway 1 seed is me going against the 6 seed. And for 3 days, I've been down because I've got Harden on that team. I got LeBron on that team. Curry's out hurt. Who else? Kuzma's out hurt. Josh Hart's been resting. I'm just trying to get by with what I can. And it's back. I felt a little hopeless, trying to be zen about like I've recommended to you guys. I'm back 4-4. I've got other leagues, but this is the league I care most about. This is the one that's exciting for me. I've got a dynasty league too, but that team's still rebuilding. So, I care about that team. I don't care about it this time of year. Enough about me. You've all got your own fantasy woes or glories to deal with. You don't have to hear about it all from me. Unless you guys want more of that, you can leave it in the comments, I guess. Anyway, if you're going after a team looking for specific matchups, not talking streaming here, just like good matchups, look at San Antonio's schedule. They get to play Houston, Memphis, Portland. That's a pretty posh schedule. So if you're ever kind of wavering, who do I pick up? Who do I think might have a burst out game? I like San Antonio's. I also like Houston's. They get to play San Antonio, Sacramento, and Minnesota, which also means by default, Sacramento is kind of nice because they get to play Houston twice in the middle of the week, but they've also got some more difficult matchups. So if I'm looking for one-offs or I'm looking for a little edge in DFS right now, those are matchups, especially if there's someone coming off the bench because someone's resting. Those should be fast-paced games. Sacramento versus Houston, not great teams going against each other, up in pace. There should be a lot of numbers there. San Antonio, while being thought of as a slower team, if you actually look at the thing I just had up a minute ago, they're actually up in pace. They're at 102, makes them one of the higher paced teams. And there might be some people there you could scoop up, get some extra points out of. We'll talk about those games more when we do the waiver wire later this weekend. This one's just trying to get us primed. So let's go ahead and look at the back-to-backs. So an interesting thing about the back-to-backs this week is there's always some team you can go after to get a back-to-back. If you want Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, there's someone you can go after except Friday, Saturday. So just know that. Don't be targeting that. If you're making a push late in the week, it's the Saturday, Sunday back-to-backs that you want to look for. The only team with a Monday, Tuesday back-to-back starts you off strong is Chicago. So you might want to look at the Bulls now during this week 22 that we're living. If you happen to have a Bull on your team, you'll be ready to jumpstart the week. They get to play the Knicks and Washington. You like those matchups. They go in there and they're the only team with that back-to-back and can save you if you've got a little extra waiver move and you're advancing already. Go ahead and do that. If not, you want to win this week. It's the playoffs. Like, don't start planning for next week and count chickens before they hatch. If you're in close matchups, get your win now. It's win or go home. Make the moves you need to make. Don't worry about saving stuff for the future that might not happen. Speaking of futures that might not happen, we're at a time when people rest. We got some guys that always rest on back-to-backs or usually rest on back-to-backs. Let's run through the usual suspects, see what we're looking at. Connolly, no back-to-back this week. Horford, he's got a half of a back-to-back. See, Boston's coming in with a back-to-back, so just monitor that just in case. Embiid, yes, they've got a back-to-back, and he has been resting a little bit. They rested him and Harden at the same time this week, so keep an eye on that. He might miss one of those games. Hopefully not both those games. The Heat, so Jimmy might be resting. Anyone might be resting. It's the Heat. Who knows? Yes, they do have a back-to-back. Houston, no back-to-back, so I'm not too worried about Eric Gordon. Spencer Dinwiddie, yes. Dallas does have a back-to-back, so it might happen there. Otto Porter, the Warriors actually have a full back-to-back and a half of a back-to-back, so there's a good chance he's going to miss some of those games there, so don't count on him if you're looking at the waiver wire, but that just might mean that there's other Warriors available to you. The Bulls, yes, they do have a back-to-back, so maybe Zach or someone's resting there, although the Bulls are kind of quietly fighting to stay out of the 7th seed, stay out of the play-in. They're just a game ahead of the 6-7 tie there with Cleveland and Toronto, so unless they really need to, that might matter. Like, I don't think people are worried about too much about seeding, but you want to stay out of the play-in if you can avoid that. Then the special Kyrie section, which the rules have changed on yet again. Brooklyn has 3 games. Only one of them is on the road, so you would have thought it's one game that he can play, but the rules are changing, and I don't actually know the effective date yet. We'll know more. I mean, I think the news is coming out of New York now, today, something like that. Well, today as of me recording, not knowing when you're watching this. Anyway, there's a good chance he's going to get to play the Detroit and the Milwaukee game in Brooklyn. You might actually get 3 games out of Kyrie, which if you've got him and you're somehow still alive in the fantasy playoffs, that could be a big boon for you. Congrats. Let's go ahead and talk about streaming. So this week's a little interesting because there are 3 definite streaming days. Tuesday is 5, Thursday is 5, Saturday is 5. They're all below the 8, so it's a low quantity day, but 5 is pretty low overall. There's only 10 teams playing each of those days. So there's a really good chance that anyone that's available on the waiver wire for those days would make a difference for you because you're probably going to have some holes in your starting lineup. On the flip side, Monday's 9, Wednesday's 11, Friday's 10, Sunday's 12. So Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, all of them 10, 11, 12 games. That's so many games. Anyone who's worth holding all year long that's already on your roster, unless they're hurt, unless you're dealing with Curry or Ja or someone being out long term, you're going to be playing your starters there. You really don't have to make moves to try and stream there, barring injuries. Monday at 9, you might still get to work someone in there. And so with that, besides Cleveland, right? 5 games, I'm wearing the gear. That's the team to go after. But they actually only have 2 of those games on the good streaming days, against Atlanta and against the Knicks on Thursday and Saturday. So depending on what you've got going on, you might not be able to work them in the Dallas game Wednesday or the Sunday game against Philly, in which case they don't help you as much as, say, Chicago. I already talked about them with the back-to-back to start the week against Knicks and Washington. So back-to-back good. You like that they're going against those teams. Then they get the Clippers and Miami, which maybe aren't the best matchups, but Washington, Clippers, Miami, all 3 streaming days. You get 4-game week, all 3 streaming. That's my number 1 team to target if there's someone out there on the waiver. Next up is actually Philly. Despite them playing on that Sunday, because I already talked about them that they go against Cleveland, right? They get the other 3 days on streaming. They go Milwaukee, Detroit, Charlotte. You especially like the Detroit and Charlotte matchups. Milwaukee plays fast enough that even with a good defense, you still like that matchup. That's my number 2 waiver target. And if they happen to be resting some guys anywhere in there, that gives you a chance. I mean, Maxi's probably rostered in all leagues, so you really have to be looking around the fringes. Like, if you're in category leagues, Thibel's interesting. If you're just looking for raw points, there's probably actually other ways you can go, but keep this in mind. Working my way down, my 3rd ranked teams, we got a tie here. I like Utah and I like Brooklyn's. They both have all 3 of the good streaming days, right? Brooklyn gets Detroit, Milwaukee, Atlanta. You like those matchups. Utah gets the Clippers, Lakers, Golden State. They're only 3-game weeks, which I've said is a real disadvantage this week because only 7 teams play 3 games. But if all 3 of those games fall on the right day and you're in a daily change league, that's actually going to be more beneficial than someone like, say, Memphis, who has 3 games and they're all on the higher streaming days. I mean, they avoid Sunday, but still 9, 11, and 10 games, you probably won't be able to work someone else in there, which is interesting. I bring that up because I mentioned that Ja's out right now. He's not going to get reevaluated for 2 weeks. Well, Tyus Jones seems like an obvious pickup. As of recording, he's only 25% rostered. He's a good player. He's part of why the Grizzlies are able to keep playing when they miss Ja, who's a legit superstar and helps the team. I'm not taking any of that. The team's better without him nonsense. The fact that it's a good team is not a penalty that should be thrown in Ja's face. Ja's great. The Grizzlies are great. Tyus Jones, a big reason that they don't miss a beat because they have a fantastic backup guard situation. Anyway, it's not super valuable this week if you scoop him up and he's got the 3 games. Like, his stat lines are all right. 11, 3, and 5. 16 and 10. Like, you love that. You scoop someone up and you get 10 assists off of him. But if you can't use him this week, maybe Monday with the 9 games, I don't think it's super valuable. I know this isn't the waiver show, but I kind of want to mention it because the 25% roster is probably going to go up higher in between now and then, right? And I probably will talk about him still on the waiver show. If your league still goes into the next week, they've got 4 games, they being Memphis, then maybe you do scoop him up and just hope to work him in there because there is value of getting starter minutes out of a guy who's available in 75% of leagues. But otherwise, I really would target some lesser players from Utah, Philly, depending on who's available in your league. The minutes that they play on the correct days for your schedule, if you can just run up those game stats, all those counting stats, they matter. And in your points league, it's the same way. You take some flyers and hope to get the right guy on the right night, and that helps you move on in the playoffs. If none of these are fitting, there's plenty of teams that have at least 2 of the streaming days, right? You can look at all the teams that have the Tuesday, Thursday streaming or the Thursday, Saturday. I'm actually a little more interested in the Thursday, Saturday because there's less of them. So Atlanta gets Cleveland and Brooklyn. You like both those matchups. And then Cleveland gets Atlanta and New York. We've already talked about Cleveland, so that name's already been discussed. But look at Atlanta there. I don't want to miss that. Indiana OKC games aren't great, but at the end of the week, if you scoop someone up and play one of their wings, that might help you out. If you got others, comments, questions, whatever, leave it down below. Hit me up on Twitter. Love to hear from you guys. If you're here watching it for the 4th time this week, like Keith seems to do, thanks. Appreciate you coming back. All those with ADD like me that are leaving comments saying that they come back for it. Awesome. Otherwise, the link's down below. Thank you for watching. I hope you're doing well in your matchups. If you're still there, you know what I want you to do? Go out and win your week. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. It helps me grow the channel. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe or even the little bell will give you alerts. And I'll be back soon with another video for you.